Today we're going to talk a little bit about the 600 series flex heads. When you get your header out, one of the first things you want to do is check your reel bushings. Make sure those are nice and tight, not slopping around in there. Make sure that all your fingers are in decent shape, not cut off, wore out, broke off. When you check your reel, you're going to make sure your height adjustment's right. Make sure you got about 1.5 inches between your cutter bar and your finger. That way when it's flexing, you don't cut them off. When you're checking that, you also want to have your header in rigid mode so the cutter bar is at its highest position. With your reel up, then you can take a look at your guards and your sickle. You want to make sure you got a nice edge on your guard. Make sure your sickles are still sharp. Your hold downs, you want about a 20,000th gap in there just to hold your sickle in place. If you get it too tight, your sickle will get hot. You'll lose your temper and you'll break them off. After you look at your cutter bar, you want to go up to your teeth. Check and make sure that all your teeth are still on there. If they're starting to wear, replace them. Any of them broken off, have to replace those too. When looking at your teeth, you're going to make sure that they're fully extended when they're at the 3 o'clock position, so facing straight out, and that they retract in as it moves down towards the floor. If you notice that your fingers aren't all the way out when they're facing straight forward, or if they're hitting the floor a little bit when they come around, you might have to do a cam adjustment. Just loosen up these bolts, take this one out, and as you rotate this cam, it'll rotate the finger position inside the auger. When you look at your auger position, you're going to want to make sure you have approximately an 1/8 inch gap between your flighting and your stripper plate. You don't have to go any closer than that, or if your auger flexes, it might rub. When you go to calibrate your header for your header height, if you're having issues with sensors being off, your right position sensor is located here, and your center one is in front down underneath this cover. Your left-hand sensor for your flex mode is tucked in back behind this pulley. That'd just be if you're having voltage issues, you can adjust your left-hand side there. You want to check the tension on your belt, make sure you're adjusted correctly, moves freely, check your belt for any cracks. You also want to check your chain tension. Make sure you can wiggle your chain some. It doesn't have to be fiddle string tight. Then you're going to come up, grease your knife gearbox. Multi-purpose grease works good there. Stay away from your corn head grease. If you got an air bar on your reel and you're noticing that your reel's not lifting evenly, we do have bigger reel cylinders available to help everything lift in unison. You won't get all crooked.
Active Yield from John Deere automatically calibrates the yield monitor while you harvest. You'll enjoy increased performance from improved yield data. Reduce downtime by eliminating weighing and manual calibration procedures. No stopping to calibrate. Active Yield sensors automatically measure the grain each time the grain tank fills for continuous calibrations. Sensors measure the grain as it piles over the cross auger covers and compares readings to the mass flow sensor. Active Yield. Less time calibrating, better yield data accuracy. For model year 2012 and up, S-Series combines. See your Valley Plains dealer about Active Yield.
So here we're on a S770. We're just going to go over a little bit of the new screen, what's all in there, go over header calibrations. One big change they made is they went to a single page for all your harvest settings. Easy to access, easy to read everything. You can go up and just click on any button you want. It'll pull up information. Easy to change on the go. You get into different conditions, you can just click on your threshing conditions. You can choose between difficult, normal, easy. All depends on what your grain's doing. After you change it, it will change what settings you want to try and run. It'll give you recommendations. There's lots of different things you can change in there. As you can see there, it automatically changes it to where they would recommend doing it. That's not the perfect settings. You're still gonna have to adjust a little bit, but it gives you a good base point. If you are having issues with threshing, you can go to Optimize Performance. There's just an interactive combine adjustment. So you just click on what you're having issues with. You just go to your next page. And you say where you're getting your loss, that will say shoe. And it'll come up with things you can try and change to get either optimum grain tank. Say you're throwing too much over the back, you can change your settings there. There's all kinds of different settings you can change to help you get the most efficient use out of your combine. A few other things you can look at that's nice and easy is your grain tank, bushels, yields, and you can set these screens up about any way you want to put them. Pretty much unlimited possibilities of options you can have on your screens. Then you go into your menu. This is where you'll find your header at. You go through here, you change all your sensitivities, Draper speed, anything you can click on, it pulls up another screen and you can just go from there with. If you did want to get into your calibrations, you go into here. You can reset everything if you got settings all messed up. If you want to get into your main calibrations for your combines, you just click on the calibration button. Here, these are all your calibrations for your combine. You'd want to go down to your header here if you're doing a header calibration, and you got your list of calibrations there. This screen will be the same for all different types of headers. All your calibration procedures are pretty much the same, just a little different depending on if you're going with a flex or a rigid. So here we'll go through the header calibration. We'll just walk through the steps and show you step by step what the new screens look like as you're going through the calibration. These calibrations are all the same procedures, the old ones, it just looks a little different. All your heads will calibrate about the same. You just follow the steps to tell you what to do here. And here we're going, it says set your engine to high idle, decrease cutter bar pressure, lower feeder house raise. This is just an overview of what it's all going to tell you to do. So we'll go ahead and start the calibration here. Here's fore aft tilt. It's pretty much your combine. Feeder house isn't sitting level. They want you to level the feeder house off. So just hold the button. Once it gets to where you want it, it kicks you out of it. You hit the next step. There we'll set the feeder house on the ground. Hit next. We'll raise the feeder house back up. And there it's saying my cutter bar pressure is too high. So it's going to pause me. I'll have to hold the button until my cutter bar pressure gets below 1,000 psi. At that point, it'll be happy and it'll let us continue on with the calibration. Now it's telling me to put the header back on the ground. There we successfully went through a header calibration. And after that, it'll bring you to a tuning calibration. Pretty much just goes up and down with your head to adjust to where the valves need to be at to raise and lower your head. It helps with response rates. If you got mud or something starting to build up, it'll be able to know how far to lift the header up to go over it. Helps you from pushing. And there we went through that calibration successfully. So we'll save it all. When you're done with it, just exit all up in the top corner, then you can go on to the next calibration that you'd like to be on. Now we'll go outside and take a look at a couple more things. Here we got your debris filter for your exhaust. Pretty much cleans all the air that you blow across your exhaust system to keep it cool. If we get into real dry and dusty conditions, you want to make sure and check on that so that's not getting too full on you. The lower that filter gets, the more static electricity you're going to start to get. We've had a lot of minor electrical issues. One way we've gotten away from the electrical issues, if you just drag a small log chain behind you. We have had some guys get shocks even, so that chain will take care of that issue for you.
Hi, I'm JDLink Heim, Product Line Marketing Manager in the John Deere Precision Ag Group. I have a question for you today. What if you could make a near-perfect end-of-row turn on every pass, every time, all day long, and not have to repeat all the manual steps during those turns? That's why we designed AutoTrac Turn Automation, to help you manage tractor and implement functions throughout the entire field instead of headland to headland. Even the most skilled operators can benefit from this automation. You can quickly begin working with an easy interface. From the Run page, you can tap the shortcut key and go directly to the Setup page. This page shows which steps you finished and which ones are left to set up. And after you've started running in the field, it's easy to change turn direction or the number of skips right from the map module. The system even displays a preview of the turn in advance, so you can see what will happen. Now with AutoTrac turn automation, instead of performing those repetitive end-of-row tasks, you'll be better able to focus on what's important and make easier, faster, and more consistent turns all day long.
We're going to do calibrations on the Flex Draper on a S670 Combine. All right, to calibrate the Flex Draper to the S670 Combine, you would go to your Combine screen, the book and wrench, and make sure you're on header and select. You'll want Combine running at high idle. And then it'll have you level the feeder house, decrease, cutter bar pressure, then it'll have you lower it to the ground. Select continue. Hold the raise switch. Continue. Continue. And then it does its tuning calibration. You lower it. Calibration complete. For your Flex Draper, your header controls are this header button. And the first time you click it, it'll give you your cutter bar pressure that you can manually set. If you hit it again, you'll bring up draper speed that you can set. Fore and aft position on the newer combines. And side belt reduction speeds can be set for all off that button. And then this is your feeder house speeds button, where you can set how fast your feeder house raises and lower when you manually run the button. If you click it again, you have your header height sensitivity, which controls how fast it responds when it's running in flex mode. And the third time, it's tilt sensitivity, which is how fast it responds in flex mode. On the sensitivity ones, you want to lower the number if your header's bouncing around too much to stabilize the head.
Hi, I'm Tony Eggers, Product Manager in the John Deere Precision Ag Group. What if you could make a straighter path for planting or strip tilling and be able to use your established guidance lines all season long? In the past, you needed an active guidance system that required steering systems on both the tractor and the implement. Now, with AutoTrac implement guidance, you can take advantage of a passive system that allows the tractor to travel off the guidance line to keep the implement on the intended path. Putting the row in the right spot with your planter allows for faster tractor speeds on post-emerge passes while reducing crop damage. The AutoTrac implement guidance application runs on either the Gen 4 4600 Command Center or the 4640 Universal Display. It uses receivers on both the tractor and the implement to determine if a correction is needed. After initial setup to establish the receiver locations, the system self-calibrates and continuously corrects itself throughout the field to give you the best possible result. Now, you might be thinking you don't need this technology since your land is flat. However, studies show that what we might think of as a flat field isn't really all that flat. The USDA estimates that 88% of U.S. cropland is Class A to C with sloping soils up to 9%. Internal testing shows that when using implement guidance during planting, the system was able to place rows within 2 inches of the target 84% of the time. What does this mean in your operation? Even a slight shift on the first pass can have a big impact on future passes, such as side dressing, spraying, or mechanical cultivation. It also means you are more likely to be able to use AutoTrac on those post-emerge passes. Even if your fields seem pretty flat, AutoTrac implement guidance can improve your accuracy pass after pass and help you work at faster speeds with less effort, ultimately reducing crop damage.
Today we're going to talk about the 640 Flex Draper and start off with Draper tension. There's a gauge on the ends and you want to get that adjusted into the green, and then to adjust that you adjust this bolt to pull your drapers tight. Your center belt adjustment is under here. It's this bolt and you tighten it till it's level with the side sheet. When you adjust your side belts, you want to make sure these rollers are sitting square and not pulling one way or the other, top to bottom. So if they're sitting crooked, you want to make sure this is cleaned out, nothing hanging up, and that you can move the motor side to side freely to get it square. This shaft runs the sickle, and it has 2 independent sickles. So if you ever have to remove this shaft off of either side, you need to check sickle timing again. And the way to check it is to make sure both sickle gearboxes are on the outmost stroke at the same time. Okay, one other thing to check is these rollers. Just make sure you can turn your canvases and everything turns free. On the right side of the combine, we'll go over some of the settings for different crops. Your feeder house drum is set by this lever. It's in the down position now, but it does flip up to the up position depending on which crop you're running. You can set your feeder house chain speed by switching to the other sprocket. This lever's for your feed accelerator. Depending on if you needed fast or slow, you would loosen this lever and switch the belt to the corresponding pulley set you needed. So on the back left side of the combine, this is where you change your chopper speeds according to what crop you're using. And that just pushes in and pulls out to get your different speeds. And up here, it's your rotor speed shifter. And you have high and low gears by shifting this lever correspondingly. And then on the left side of your feeder house, you set your drum height by moving this handle for up or down position, like on the right side.
We live in a connected world. Stay connected with JDLink. With JDLink, you can see critical and timely information. Move or transfer data to and from the machine. Support your equipment and your people to keep your operation running efficiently. When the unexpected happens, you need a quick resolution. And a no-cost subscription of JDLink Access Plus RDA provides machine connectivity and access to many support tools, which can notify you promptly of a potential problem anywhere you are. And with your permission, your Valley Plains dealer can also receive these alerts and remotely connect to your equipment to diagnose the issue and keep you running. Additional JDLink Access Plus RDA tools include remote display access, Monitor machine location, path, idle time, fuel, and depth levels. Schedule and maintain maintenance plans. And receive wireless machine software updates from your Valley Plains dealer. You can have your agronomic and documentation data sent to and from the machine, allowing you to utilize information quickly to help reduce input costs, improve performance, and increase yields. And that's where My John Deere Operations Center and its mobile app becomes a strong partner. They help you to view, edit, share your machine information and agronomic data to gain insights. This automatic flow of data will allow you to make sound, timely decisions wherever you are. See your Valley Plains dealer for hardware requirements and subscription rates. Stay connected with JDLink.
First thing we're going to talk about is the reverser gear case. Where you check that is the dipstick located right here. The feeder house has to be in the raised position, and there are two marks, a high, low, and a low mark on there. The oil that goes in there is a full synthetic reverser oil. The next thing I want to talk about is the feeder house chain tension. On this particular model, there is an indicator, and the indicator should be level with the washer. And that's for proper feeder chain adjustment. There is one of those on each side of the feeder house. The next item I would like to talk about is the primary gear case. This particular model has a 5-speed gear case, so the oil for this is supplied through the hydraulics. On the older models, this would be known as the primary gear case and would have an electric clutch on it. You should change the oil on that yearly or every couple of years due to condensation and wear and tear on the oil. The oil that would go in there would be gear lube and about 40 ounces. There is, on the older models, behind the pulley on the drive shaft that turns around, there is a grease zerk there that does need to get greased and requires service. Another thing on the older models is the lock nut, to keep an eye on that. Some of them will loosen, or as the back of the clutch wears into the shaft, that washer will become loose. We need to watch that for proper tightness. And the other thing we want to do is check our U-joints. We have one there. We also have a hanger bearing further back. And we also have one up on the engine compartment. So those are three items we also need to check. This particular picture, we're looking at the gear case, the final drive gear case. There is a grease zerk on each side towards the rear of the machine that should be greased. This is the front of the final drive. What we want to check here is the oil level for the final drive gear case. You remove the square plug that is right behind the drive shaft, and the oil should be either just barely coming out or a little bit underneath the threads, and that is 80/90 gear lube. The next thing I'd like to talk about is we saw some problems this year with a lot of debris building up behind this long safety shield for the hoses. We had a few machines that had so much material packed in, it actually broke this big link arm here. So good practice, you know, every once in a while take these 3 nuts off here, take this cover off and blow all the material out behind there. These are the separator grate covers. These are installed for small grains and hard thrashing purposes. They are installed mostly for wheat, barley, the small grains. And when they're installed, there's 3 on the left side on each section. And on the right side of the machine, there are 2 rows on each section on the right side. When we go to corn, one little trick we could do is lower our grates. So what we could do is put the spacer and we put it in between the frame of our combine and the actual grate, giving us a little bit more capacity to get that larger material out of the machine faster. The one thing to remember with the grate covers is they are only used in small grains. Once we hit beans, these should be removed for beans and corn. So small grains are the only application where these should actually be in the machine. This is the air filter element for our exhaust charger, which keeps the dust and debris from our exhaust system back there. This is something we probably want to check about the same time every time you check your engine air filters. There's a regular air filter, just unclips, pulls out, and you put your element in there. Our exhaust coming out of our combine, what we want to do before we start up for the year is make sure that no birds have made any nests around there due to the heat the exhaust puts out, just in case of a fire. Right now we're up in the engine compartment. We're right behind the rotor of the machine. There is a gear case that's back here, the rotor gear case. There is a dipstick to check the oil level on that also. And the gear case does take 80-90, about 4 quarts. That's probably something that should get changed or serviced maybe every couple, 2-3 years, depending upon how many hours you put on your machine. The rear of on the gear case is the rotor torque sensing unit. And the biggest misconception with that is there's a grease zerk that's actually screwed into the sheave, but that does not fill the cavity with grease. That just greases the shaft that the sheaves slide on. The actual cavity is filled with cornhead grease. And in order to check that level, you need to run the machine and have the rotor spinning, get that grease warm. There's a plug on the rear side of the cover. You remove the plug and the cornhead grease level should be 2 inches below the cover of the rear of the rotor sensing unit. One important thing with that rotor torque sensing unit is you want to cycle it open and closed at least once every couple days to make sure that the cams do not get stuck inside the unit.
Hi, I'm Tony Eggers, Product Manager in the John Deere Precision Ag Group. Up until now, you may not have been able to use AutoTrac after your crop emerged because of planter drift or you didn't have the guidance lines. With AutoTrac Vision for Tractors, a John Deere exclusive, your tires or tracks will automatically stay between the rows. This reduces the risk of damage from inaccurate post-emerge product application or running over the crop. And as an added benefit, you can work at faster speeds with less effort compared to manual driving. So, how does this technology work? Similar to AutoTrac Vision on John Deere's self-propelled sprayers, this new solution for tractors pairs a camera to see the crop with the RowSense application. It works on a Gen 4 4600 Command Center or 4640 Universal Display. This is ideal for in-row operations that use a mounted or drawn implement, like a sprayer, nutrient bar, or cultivator. It works in 20 to 40 inch row spacings for corn, soybeans, and cotton when crop is at least 6 inches high and up to 90% canopy.
It's really hard to watch what you're doing and watch where you're going at the same time. And with 24 row equipment, if you mess up, it shows up in a big way in a hurry. With this AutoTrac Vision, we can pull into the end rows or the outsides of the field and turn it on, and if our planter weaves a little bit, it just weaves right with it. Cultivating all day can be tiresome, but when the tractor drives itself and you have confidence that it's going to go where it's supposed to go, it's certainly a lot less stressful throughout the day.
Just like Jason discovered, once you experience AutoTrac Vision for Tractors, you'll realize how much it can reduce crop damage and help you work at faster speeds with less effort.
So today I'm going to touch base on the 7 and 6 series corn heads. Today we're going to just be looking at the 708C 30-inch spacing. So first I'm going to touch base on all the lubrication points and oil cavities. Obviously each end has their sump cover. Best way to check that is combine with the header, header level with the ground, and check that. So the chopping unit, there's 2 points of, there's 2 cavities. You have your front one, and obviously fill, drain. And then on the rear side, there's also a cavity that guys tend to forget. We have our drain and we have our fill. And then off to the side, then we have our row unit gear case, and here's our drain here. And also while we're looking here, we have our slip clutch. On the new 7 series and model 17, this is an 18, but they went to a PTO style spline for the slip clutch. And then we obviously have our grease zerk there. I tend to grease that, throw about 5-10 shots in the first of the year, and then don't over grease that. That should be fine. You will blow your seals out. And then for the row unit gear case, you just have your dipstick up top. This is 80/90 on the newer ones. The older ones would have been cornhead grease. And then you also have your drain on the bottom as well. So on the back side of the header, off the main drive shaft that obviously would go to your combine, there is a slip clutch here with a grease zerk. Give that a couple shots of grease too, beginning of the year. Make sure to check your auger as well, your auger drive chain. Make sure that has pretty good tension. It wouldn't hurt to, while you're running it, put a little chain lube on it, make sure it's all nice and lubed. So some things to check on our row unit itself, the gathering portion. Obviously, let's make sure our gathering chains are free. I'll see a lot of times where they'll be binded up, seized up. Another thing to do when you're first getting going, run your header, have somebody run in the header combine, and then take some chain lube and spray, get it all nice and lubed up. Another good thing to check is your actual gathering chain adjustment. Right here we're set perfectly. We got about 1 coil of spring showing. That's kind of what we're looking for. Also make sure, I'll see a lot of times where this will be seized up. We have a nice give to that. This will seize up in here in our guide. It'll get a bunch of crap in there. So what a guy just does is just take actual tensioner system off, take the guide off, and just get it, clean it all out, spray some lube in there, get that all nice and lubed up. Another good thing to check, first part of the year, or if you've never done it before, close your deck plates all the way. And what you should be able to do, and the gap in the front, a 10mm nut, it should fit nice and tight in there. And then as we get towards the back, we should get a little bit of slop in there, about a 1/16 difference. That's kind of what we're looking for. And then I've also done, you could also just do your finger, nice and tight, and then a little bit of slop also. But obviously we're open here, so to loosen our deck plate or adjust our deck plate, we're gonna just loosen these 2 top bolts and then our bottom bolt, and then we can just bring that in just enough. Obviously make sure our deck plates are all the way closed, and we'll check our gap. So now I'm just gonna touch a little bit on our chopping gear case. Obviously there's nothing too crazy about them. If you find where you're having issues, where your gear case is not turning, obviously first thing to check, make sure your lever is on. A lot of times something could just bump it just enough, and we're gonna lose the chopping portion of this row. Another good tip to know is our actual chopping piece itself is going to rotate this way, the way the guards are. So if you're getting a used head, or if you forgot if you flipped them or not, just remember this is the way we're spinning. So that's a good point to know. Obviously, our blades are flippable. A good thing, if you do flip them again and you're going to replace your blades, I would recommend replacing the bushings as well. Just a reminder, we are starting some inspections lately for the corn heads, the flex heads, and the Drapers. With the corn heads, we have a great program with the Assure system, and it's a great program, so contact us right away.
First thing you have to do is go to your app store on your phone. Just type in John Deere App Center. Should bring you right to it. Click on that. Come up to the John Deere App Center. I already have it downloaded, but up here it'll say download. You just click on your download button. It is free. After it downloads, this is what it'll look like. You just scroll down to get to your GoHarvest. I also have that downloaded on the phone, but it will say install over here where it says go. When you first open up your GoHarvest app, it'll show this page. It'll just explain to you what it's there for. You have to select your combine. If you got a 70 series or 60 series, it should act like the S series for the most part. You just have to click on S series. Select your combine. Then you'd go through and select your crop. So we'd start with, say, wheat. Right there it'll say, do you have all these settings correct? It'll show down here on the bottom what you entered, and you'd go to the next step. When you get to this page, it'll show you what needs to be changed between crops. You'll just click on one of the dots and it'll pull up what it is, your feed accelerator. It'll show you what speed you should be at and tell you how to set all the settings up properly. Click on the arrows, it'll rotate the combine so you can get to the other side. After you get the outside all gone through, you can click on the inside cab. It'll tell you the approximate settings that you should have everything set at for each individual crop. After that, you'll go to your grain loss monitor. There's a little calculator in here that'll help you set up what's an acceptable rate to you on how much grain loss you are having. And the handy part about this app, go to your performance and say you have 30 samples in your tank. You can go through here and it'll help diagnose what the problem could be. It also has tailing, shoe, and separator for diagnostic areas. Once you click on it, you can just answer yes or no, and it'll bring you down to the next step of what's happening, what you need to try and change, and then it'll continue going down until you're okay with it.